Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. She's the Republican Conference Assistant Whip and a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Congresswoman, thanks very much for being here. What's your reaction to this indictment?
Well, obviously, it's very concerning. I'm very concerned for the future of our city. It seems that there's so many people around this mayor that have already left the administration. It makes it difficult to govern, and we have so many problems right now. Everything from this mass illegal migration, gang members taking over the streets of New York City who are foreign gangs that are committing crimes. We have other public safety issues. We have a crumbling transit system. We have an education system that is not teaching our children what they need to know to survive and have a successful future. So there's a lot of problems right now, and I'm very concerned what this means for our city. And I think we need this mayor to step aside for the sole reason that we need this city to function, and it just cannot function and be governed right now by him and, again, the people that have already left. We need new leadership.
Yeah, and that's the issue that Michael Balboni brought up earlier. Michael, it's like, what happens now? Who's running New York City with 10 million migrants in America and, 200,000 in New York City right now?
Yeah, Congresswoman, you know, when you take a look at the administration right now, as you pointed out, so many leaders have left. But what you know is that if you're in this administration, you're really nervous about who's wearing a wire, who's going to come knocking on your door. And so you're not thinking about anything else, to your point, especially within the police department. I mean, your thoughts on the brand new commissioner suddenly having his home raided for documents that he may have been retaining from years ago. So what do you think is going to be the future for the New York City Police Department as it moves through this period?
Well, you know, these police officers are already suffering under the current laws that the Democrats put in at the city and state level. They have had their hands tied. They have taken away their qualified immunity protection. They have made it miserable for police officers to do this job. And this is only going to bring more apathy and low morale to the rank and file. We know that we had 41,000 police officers on 9/11. We're now down to 33,000. This is not good for the city. We need more police officers, and there's a attitude that they're going to no longer defund the police, but now they're just simply driving them out by making their jobs difficult and lives miserable, quite frankly. So I think this just adds to the apathy problem that we have in the rank and file. But I'll also say this. There's more investigations that are taking place by the federal government. We know that they're looking at no-bid contracts, security contracts, contracts related to this migrant crisis that are companies that were previously owned by people very close to the mayor. That is another investigation that's currently ongoing. So I think it is the tip of the iceberg, and I think you're right. I think there's probably more coming after this, and that is why you saw so many people flee the administration so rapidly.
Well, I mean, Curtis Sliwa was on Instagram yesterday saying if the public defender, Jumane, if he takes over and is running the city, New York City is over. What is your take on this lefty Democrat who actually could be an interim leader here?
Well, obviously, it's very concerning. That is the problem here, that if Mayor Adams goes, we will end up with somebody left, and certainly worse in terms of policies. The good news is that within 80 days, there would need to be a special election, and it would be a nonpartisan special election. So you have an opportunity to elect somebody not just by party label, that often happens in New York City, but maybe somebody who's a business leader, someone common sense with managerial and good management skills, somebody who's run a large organization. You know, I throw out somebody like a Michael Bloomberg or a John Katsimatidis. That type could be the mayor, at least for an interim period, to clean things up. And that's really what we need. Look, the taxpayers of the city, $119 billion. That's what the city spends. A lot of it goes to thousands of organizations via these large contracts. So we need to get back to the basics here of governing this city. People need safe streets, clean streets, good public transportation, great quality education for our kids. We need to get back to the basics. The city's spending and wasting so much money, and perhaps it's corrupt because that's why these investigations are continuing into this administration. So I would like to see maybe the city elect someone a little more centrist with common sense that has run an organization as a proven leader.
I mean, clean streets, safety, no crime. And we haven't seen that in New York City in a long time, Congresswoman, a long time.
The
it's really
basics.
sad.
Get back to the basics.
It's true. President Biden was asked if Mayor Adams should resign, and he said, I don't know. But former President Trump weighed in yesterday. Watch this.
I watched about a year ago when he talked about how the illegal migrants are hurting our city and the federal government should pay us and we shouldn't have to take them. And I said, you know what? He'll be indicted within a year. And I was exactly right, because that's what we have. We have people that use the Justice Department and the FBI at levels that have never been seen before.
I mean, both could be true. You know, I said it earlier, Congressman. I don't know if Mayor Adams is clean or dirty. I just don't know. But is this more lawfare from this DOJ?
Well, I think it's very well.
Who will take you out if you're not involved, if you're not in on their narrative? You know it.
Well, I think it's quite possible that he was targeted, but obviously they did find something here as well, and that is why the indictment came. What I would say is, if the mayor truly believes he was targeted and that this administration is weaponized, why did he endorse Kamala Harris so quickly? That's the question I have for him, because now he wants to say that he was targeted, and that may very well be. But why would you endorse an administration to continue for another 4 years of this weaponization? We know there's only one person that will end this weaponization by our government, and that is President Donald Trump. He will be the one that really brings back law and order the way it's supposed to be, and go after criminals, the people who are smuggling drugs into our country, that are sex trafficking women into this country. He will go after the true criminals that are causing havoc on the streets of New York City and elsewhere. And that's my response to the mayor, is why would you endorse Kamala Harris if you believe that they are targeting you unfairly?
That's a great point. Yeah, I wonder if he had pressure to do that as well. After all the talk that he was making about the migrants. Look, the White House is facing questions on all of this, and on his suggestion that he's being targeted over the criticism of the Biden-Harris handling of the migrant crisis and all these migrants coming in and causing such chaos. Watch this.
We have been always very clear. The president was clear even when he was running in 2020 that he was going to make sure that DOJ is independent, and the DOJ is handling this case independently. I'm not going to go beyond that.
Independent. So what do you think, Congresswoman? Is the DOJ independent?
Look, I don't necessarily believe that it is independent. Obviously we have proof that it wasn't independent when we saw how they were able to postpone the crimes that were committed by Joe Biden's own son, and that whole investigation, how they hindered it. So what I would say is, look, Mayor Adams has spoken out against the migrants in the beginning, but he has gone along with it as well, or else we wouldn't be in this situation in New York City. He has housed these individuals. He has opened up a bunch of shelters with these no-bid contracts. And so I'd say that, yes, he's been critical at the beginning, but he has also allowed for this crisis to continue. He's incentivized people to come to New York City by allowing all these free services and free housing and free lawyers and everything. I mean, it's just insane. And our city is being destroyed because of it. So he should have never allowed this to happen.
Yeah, well, we're all feeling it in New York, that's for sure. Let me get your take on the dock workers. Thousands of dock workers at every major East and Gulf Coast port expected to strike beginning early next week, Congresswoman. I know you joined your colleagues in urging the Biden-Harris administration to intervene. You sent a letter to Biden. You write this: given the devastating economic consequences of a potential strike and the administration's lack of engagement to date, we urge you to give immediate attention to this matter. Give us your sense of the impact here should they go on strike next week.
Oh, it'll be devastating, I think. I think people will not be seeing things on the shelves that they're looking for. I think prices will go up. Talk about inflationary policy. There'll be obviously a supply and demand issue that will drive up consumer prices and access to the goods that they need. And I don't see the administration really talking about this issue. They say they're looking at it, but we need more than just looking at it. We need them to engage to prevent this. We've seen something similar with the railroad strike potentially that could have happened, and we were the ones who intervened, members of Congress, to stop it. But I am very concerned about this. And honestly, it's not good for anybody, particularly a few days before the election, a month before the election. You would think that this administration would be more engaged to try to prevent what could be devastating for communities across America.
Yeah. Would you endorse a 77% increase in wages?
Well, I don't know about that. I think that there needs to be negotiation. That's the whole thing, right? But you need to have somebody in there. I think, look, again, President Trump, right, the art of the deal would be in there negotiating and trying to help.
Yeah, good point. All right, great to see you, Congresswoman. Thank you. Congresswoman Malliotakis this morning.